let's give this a shot here, see how well this is working. Can you guys hear me? Looks like I'm very quiet. All right, let's give this a shot. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I'm going to have my microphone kind of close to my keyboard, unfortunately, which hopefully won't be too annoying. But so this is kind of an experiment, and we're going to see how this works. Obviously, we're going to get into some spoilers here. I'm just going to be working on the game, and I may have to stop at any given point in time. So just be aware of that. I may pause at any point in time, but anyway, let's give this a run here. So I will kind of show you what we got going on here. All right, so I've got a 2-screen setup here, and over here on the left-hand side is I've got Unity split over 2 different screens. Left-hand side is kind of my scene view, and then I've also got like the dialogue is set up over here, as well as some folder stuff. Over on the right-hand side is the rest of Unity. I'm probably going to be mostly working in Unity if I'm doing these game dev streams, but at some point I may jump into Maya as well. I'm not going to be doing any animation during these streams because that is a sure way to get me kicked out of YouTube. But so we're going to primarily keep to Unity, and we'll go from there. So I think we're working on day 9 here. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to kind of stick to some dialogue and maybe add some dialogue and some facial expressions and stuff like that for right now. I'll try and keep the screen up to date with what I'm talking about. So I'm going to flip over here to the dialogue tree, and let's see. So we're going to be working with, so this day is going to be a day that introduces 2 new characters. One is Dean Coleman, who has been talked a little about, and then the other is Omar. And during this day, Omar and Carly are going to get acquainted. So let's see here. As you can see, here's Dean Coleman here, and she's going to be pretty important during the day. And Tanya's also here. She's just hidden at the moment. But I'm going to actually keep Tanya hidden because she's just going to slow us down for the time being. And then over here we've got Omar, and then Carly is over in her room. So I've got some animation started for the scene for the day. There'll probably be more than one scene. I just have one scene for sure at the moment. And so, as I said, Omar is a new character, and I'm going to be using him as kind of an additional person that can then help initiate scenes. So trying to make him as kind of your co-conspirator during the day, and not as a rival, but I can understand where some people are going to feel like he's a rival, but that is not my intent with him as a character. Now, he's probably not going to be the only male character, so that there's going to be Grant, obviously, Omar, and then possibly in day 10 will be Araceli's boyfriend, Tyler. Now, obviously, if she's not dating Tyler, then he won't be there. But my thought is that there will be a 3rd male starting in day 10. That is subject to change, though. But the thing with the male characters as opposed to the female characters is that the male characters' body types are basically the same, with a little bit of variation, but that allows me to interchange their animations without it being too problematic. Whereas the girls have different body shapes, and so that's why they look weird sometimes during in the animation mode. But that's why I'm keeping the males the same, is so that they can be somewhat interchangeable without it looking too weird. So I'm going to jump back over to this other screen here. I'm actually going to run the day here to kind of get myself back up to speed with where I'm at. So day starts with Dean Coleman coming to talk to us. I'm going to kind of blast through her dialogue here so I can get to Omar and Carly. So, okay, so we're going to go over here by Omar. So Omar starts the day locked in position until you talk to him. Carly is over in her room reading a math book. So the idea is that Omar is a tutor, and he's here to help the girls. He'll be helping. He probably won't be here every day, but he'll be here on certain days. And he's here to, as I said, help tutor the girls. So in this case, he's going to be tutoring Carly, and that's going to lead to shenanigans. So if I start by talking to him, and you can see here there's a different color for his text bubble. I didn't want it to be pink. So I also decided to go with green. He's got some green in his shirt there, but I wanted him to not be seen as a rival, but to be seen as kind of on your side. So I want the color green as more of a good color, as opposed to, like red or something like that, to help impart that idea. So once we're done talking to him, he's going to go over to Carly's room. And we're going to kind of wait for him so we can talk to Carly. Now, the tricky thing is Carly is potentially in we're in Carly's doghouse, potentially, depending on what you did during day 7. Is that right? Yeah, day 7. So that actually is only possible if you're dating Chantel anyway. And Chantel, and the situation with dating Chantel, is kind of the real catalyst for why I'm introducing more male characters, so that there's an opportunity to keep having new sex scenes with different girls other than whoever you happen to be dating. There will be more people you can date. Right now it's just Chantel down the line. So it's the tricky thing is I have to be capable of handling the situation of Carly's pissed off at us and basically not talking to us, or just regular. So here she's just regular, and then we can talk to Grant as well. But so nothing is going to happen here until we actually leave the room. And in theory, so you can see now as I go to the door, there's a new option to listen. Now, if you try and listen from inside, you're just going to get a thought bubble that says, if I'm going to snoop, I should probably not stand in the same room. So I'm going to go outside of the room and then listen from out here. So that's going to start a conversation between these two. Just was scared there for a second. I thought maybe I hadn't had my mouse on. I've got my phone showing me the stream here, so I'm just check that for a second to make sure my phone is working. But anyway, so these two are talking, and basically Carly's complaining about math, and Omar is explaining to her why math is important, and then it kind of leaves it at that. So that's kind of as far as I am with getting towards this scene. So my thought was that I need to get, basically, Omar has to come up with, he's in theory trying to figure out how to get Carly to like math, or to do her math, or understand math. Carly's not interested in it, so the idea is to have Omar kind of come up with a solution as to how he can get her interested in math, which is going to be some sort of hanky-panky related stuff. But I hadn't quite figured that out, and I still don't have it quite figured out. But I think I'm going to kind of tweak what I have so far. So I'm going to actually stop it here and jump over to the dialogue. Which is the one I need. I'm looking the wrong day. Here, Carly and Omar. Okay, so yeah, I was looking at it was the right dialogue. Okay, so this is the conversation that they have that you listen in onto, and then I have another one that's just a filler, which is where I'm basically left off. All right, so Carly says, so like, what's the deal with math? And then Omar says, what do you mean? She says, it's kind of boring, don't you think? And then Omar says, I guess it depends on what you find interesting, but you can do some powerful shit with math. Without math and logic, we wouldn't have computers or cell phones. And then she says, I don't like either of those anyway. I don't know, I just find it really hard to learn something I don't find interesting. And he says, I guess the trick is to find a way to make it interesting for you then. So based on kind of the animation that I already have set up, so I'm going to start this back up here. So the way that this scene is going to kind of play out is that Carly's going to stay in place. She's going to be laying in her bed, and then Omar is going to get kind of back up behind her, and the scene will proceed like that. But so my thought was that I'd have the dialogue say something about him being behind her, some kind of like, oh, she needs support, somebody to get behind her, and then that would help escalate things. So that's kind of what my brain is leaning towards. Stop it here, and then, so this is just garbage. So the way that this works is it runs through this dialogue, and then there's each character. This is actually new starting this day. Each character has their own progress setting for the dialogue. Most of them won't use it, but it's just there, so mostly for Dean Coleman, actually, because her dialogue's going to progress as she does different things during the day. And I'm using it also here for the Omar and Carly dialogue. So to start with, actually I want to check something. So it starts at progress 0, and then I believe it should, it's somewhere. It's been a while since I've messed with this. It should switch to progress equals 1. Let me just see how that's set up. I have to remember where I've got this variable stored. Oh, that's right. it's part of the test set. So this is, each character has at least one task set, which is what tells them where to go and what to do. So here's Omar's. So to begin with, he starts by waiting for the player, and then once he does that, he goes to the window, and then he's again waiting for the player, but in this case he's actually waiting for you to go and listen at the door. Let's see. Okay, so then the progress, so he talks to Carly, and then the progress gets advanced here, and then he goes look at the plant, looks at the painting, then he should cycle back. Let's see if that's what happens. So basically what we're looking for here is to make sure that when we finish this initial set of dialogue, which it happens when Grant listens to the door, that once that finishes, he should cycle back through his route, starting with the window, I think, and then we should be able to then listen at the door again, and then this second dialogue should start up. Okay, so just plowing through that dialogue to get where we need to be. All right, so we're gonna wait for him to check the window, and then I think he goes straight to Carly. We'll listen to the door, and then he should go back. I think he goes to the plant or something after that, but he should cycle back around, and we should be able to listen again, and then the dialogue should advance at that point. All right, so we should be able to listen now. There. So let me pause this for a second, and then let's find Omar. I think we should be able to see his progress in one of his things here, one of his components. Is this one? Yeah, so here's his progress here. So it looks like it should work, or at least it advanced. And we're waiting for him to come back around. He's gonna go, oh that's right, he's gonna look at the painting, and then I think go back to the window, and then back to Carly. So we should be able to have a new dialogue here. And just a little bit forward. But okay, so that is what we wanted. Okay, so that is functioning properly. Now we just got to actually put in the right dialogue. Let's get that out of here. So again, I'm trying to think of something that's going to lead to her basically saying that she needs support. But I guess my real question is, because I feel like this is something that Omar should talk to Grant about, and then Grant should be the one to suggest it. So my original, let's see, I guess the trick is to find a way to make it interesting for you then. So I mean, my original kind of dialogue here leans more towards like it says, to finding something a way to make it more interesting, because it's more about her boredom, and now I'm leaning more towards it being about her needing support. So I'm wondering if I should actually change this dialogue to better fit that. I don't necessarily have to. I guess the question is what's going to make more sense. Like I said, my original thought was, so it's more of an issue that she's bored with it, and then my thought was that Omar's got to make it interesting for her, which basically ends up being something sexual, but the trick is finding the right dialogue to make that flow. One thing that's really annoying about this dialogue system, which for the most part is very nice, but it's really slow after a while. So like, there it just finally, you see this inspector over here should be showing me what pops up over here. I've got two inspectors. I've got this one here on the left, then over on my right hand side I've got this other one over here. Now they should be showing the same thing. You won't be able to see the difference here, but the one on the right here is really delayed, and the longer I leave this dialogue thing open, the worse it gets. So I'm gonna close it. Oh, we got Pappy Pie in here. Welcome, Pappy Pie. So I'm gonna reopen that dialogue. Just have to remember where it is. So hopefully it'll be a little bit faster. Alright, so now let's see if I click on this, is it faster? Sort of, not really. No, not really. Oh well, we'll just live with it. So, I mean, I think this is okay. Just, I think I just maybe need to tweak it a little bit. So, he's saying without math and logic, we wouldn't have computers or cell phones. She says, I don't like either of those anyways. I don't know. I just find it really hard to learn something I don't find interesting. So maybe instead of that, change it to something about her never having really, maybe it's more that she's struggled with math in the past and never really felt like she was supported. Something like that. I'll leave the I don't know. Leave it at that. I'm going to drop this down a little bit because I'm going to end up putting a little bit more in here, I think. Let me change the wording of that, though. I don't know. I guess it's just always been something I've struggled with. I don't know. I guess math has always been something I've struggled with. So I can kind of keep, so I'm going to have Omar say, maybe you just haven't had the right person to get a grasp on it. Let's just say, yeah, maybe. Where the text? Oh, I put it in the wrong spot. No, I didn't. What happened to my text? Yeah, maybe. There we go. Oh. So, hey Snugglestab. Omar is a new character who is going to be part of the new day. So, Omar is here to help the girls with their education because for some reason they're struggling with their education. Right, for the past week and a half, their grades have started going down inexplicably. So Omar's here to kind of help tutor them and get them squared away. So, oh, did I put this in the wrong spot? That's what happened. Okay. So, maybe. Yeah, maybe. And obviously this text is bound to change a little bit, but for the most part, I do tend to keep the dialogue that I have pretty much throughout. I don't do a ton of editing once I have something, unless it doesn't work. But for the most part, I tend to keep it. One of the reasons I like to try and keep it is because I link up the facial expressions. Oh. Watching from the future. Well, that's kind of cool. But yeah, it's the 15th here where I am, so in the middle of the U.S., so Central Standard Time. So the text is actually, I'll kind of, let me jump over to the other screen here. I'll show you the text. Actually, I link up to the facial expression, so it's easier for me to keep track of what facial expression goes with what line of dialogue. Not every line of dialogue has a new facial expression, but so you can kind of see here. What I tend to do is after I have the dialogue more or less set, I'll start putting in facial expressions, and then the text of the dialogue, whatever the dialogue line is, will be the name of the facial expression. So it's usually the first 3 or 4 words of whatever the phrase is, to match up to the actual line of dialogue. So it's easier for me to find if I need to change it. We'll possibly get into that later during this devlog, but kind of going to depend. I don't want to spend a lot of time with the facial expressions if I'm not super confident about the dialogue for that exact reason. Is because if I end up changing the dialogue, then my facial expressions aren't going to match up. So I'll probably wait a little bit if for something especially like this that's kind of lead up to the scene where it's a little bit more important that the dialogue works. But so anyways, another thing that I try and do with the dialogue is I try not to cram in a lot of dialogue into one. I try to keep them fairly digestible. The main exception to that is is in the day 4 dialogue with Araceli, where she just crams you with information about Star Cadet, and that's very intentional that it's overload. But other than that, it's usually one sentence or maybe two, but then I break it down into smaller chunks. I think it's just easier to read and flows better. But that's kind of neither here nor there. But anyway, so he says maybe you just haven't had the right person to help you get a grasp on it. She says, yeah, maybe, and then I'm gonna have her say, I guess I could use some support and maybe leave it at that. So then the question is, do I want I think I want Grant to intervene, or for it to be reliant on Grant to kind of push the scene along to the next step. So I've got this ugly white outline here. Let's get rid of that. So I want Grant to, I think I want Grant to push the scene to the next step. Question is, how do I want to do that? Do I want Omar to actually go out and find Grant? Maybe could use some support. Let's see what that looks like. So now I'm jumping over. So this is the dialogue tree for Omar and Grant as it stands right now. So by default, you have, he can ask him. So another thing about Omar, I don't know if I've mentioned yet, but Omar is actually the captain of the chess team. So that's by default, you can ask him about that. There's always got to be one line of dialogue that is available, otherwise the game you'll get stuck on that character. So I always have to have something that's always available to ask the character. But after your, I think this initial conversation, this thing is too damn slow. So one of the tricky things is keeping track of what allows what to go. So I've got my trusty Excel spreadsheet here. So you can see here, during day 1, I only ended up actually using 8 different variables to keep track of what is possible to say, and then it just kind of explodes with each new day. To the point where I'm almost at 60 variables with day 8, and we'll see how day 9 goes. Right now I'm only at 11, but I'm very early in it too, so that's bound to change. So let me scroll this over so it's a little bit easier to see. So Omar had an initial conversation with Carly. So okay, so that makes sense. So this conversation, this part of the conversation, so if you go up to Omar at this point, so it looks like I was already kind of on this page. I spent the last 2 or 3 weeks working on the Halloween content, so it's been a little while since I've touched day 9, but it looks like I was already thinking of having, so once Omar has his conversation with Carly, then you can go and talk to Omar about it, and then Grant would say, how are things going with Carly? And he says, well, she doesn't like math very much. And then Grant says, yeah, she's more of a creative type. I just need to figure out how to make her interested in it. Any advice? and I say, or Grant says, well, she likes art, and then so that this is kind of not, this doesn't line up with anything, which it's true, she does like art, but I don't have anything to follow that up with. So that's probably, I need to change that. So now their conversation is talking about how she needs support. So maybe I probably should tweak this a little bit. Just need to figure out how to make her interested in it. So I probably want to start by changing this, because it's got to be more about giving her support rather than making her interested in it, which was the original idea. I do kind of like the flow of this, but I don't know, I don't have a way of solving that puzzle at the moment of what, because the way this is set up right now, it's about that she likes art, and then the implication would be finding something art related that would lead to the sex scene, but I don't know what that would be. That's a lot of that's a lot of why these days take so long for me to make, and it only gets worse as things go on. Is trying to figure out how things flow from one thing to another. Some things have specific endpoints, but some things don't. And actually, the things that don't have specific endpoints tend to be easier because they just end up flowing from the day. So a good example of that is the day 6 content for Araceli, because that actually just came out of necessity, out of the fact that I suddenly realized that Araceli potentially had a boyfriend coming out of the HeroCon. So all of a sudden, I needed to make that work, but it came naturally out of the dialogue, as opposed to, in this case, I have a scene that I'm trying to get to, and that can be kind of more difficult to get to a specific point rather than to just have things flow out of whatever's going on. But if I don't have a specific place I'm trying to get to, then nothing's going to happen on this day. So, so you got to be able to go both ways. All right. So, how are things going with Carly? Well, she doesn't like math very much. Yeah, she's more of a creative type. So I think I do want to change this line. I just need to figure out what she needs to her going. So I'm changing it to, I just need to figure out what she needs to get her going. Any advice? So then, well, this happens to be true that she does like art. I'm going to change that away. Are you guys able to actually read these dialogue boxes? I can blow them up so a little bit bigger because I wasn't thinking about that. Get her going. Actually, I'm gonna drop this down another. So the only tricky thing is I do, in my head anyway, at this point I'm thinking I do want Grant to be kind of the one who gives him the idea, but the only problem with that is it's kind of already sort of maybe set up too much by Carly saying, like this maybe is too on the nose. Maybe you just haven't had the right person to help you get a grasp on it. Maybe I need to take that dialogue and then give that basic idea to Grant instead of over here Omar is saying it. I don't like either of those anyway. I don't know. I guess math has always been something I've struggled with. Maybe this is too on the nose. Yeah, I think I'm gonna retweak this to be a little bit less specific. Because math is always something I've struggled with. Well, we'll figure out. I don't like the wording of that. I don't know. We'll figure out a way to make it work for you. So these are gonna. I don't know about the wording of that, but the idea is what I want. I think I'm gonna get rid of those two lines, and then this be the end. Something I struggle with. I'm not 100% on that line, but the idea is what I want, I think, so that then Grant can kind of be the one to push it forward. I think that's going to work better. So that Omar's saying, I just need to figure out a way, or figure out what she needs to get her going. Any advice? And then we'll have Grant say something like, maybe she just needs the right person to support her with it. Oops, with it. And then I'm going to have Grant follow that up by saying, so if you haven't picked up, so the green pieces of, the green blocks are Omar's dialogue, blue blocks are Grant's dialogue, and gray blocks are girls, whichever girl happens to be part of that conversation. But back to Omar here. Maybe she just needs the right person to support her with it. I think so I think you could be the one she needs. You just really need to get behind her. Change so then he said, I'll link this up. Change it so that he says get behind her. All right, I can do that. Let's see. Not 100% sure that that's exactly the right wording, but let's see how that works. So jump over to the other screen here. I'm going to start it up. A couple of things we're going to check to make sure is that it actually functions. So we want it to be that before Omar talks to Carly, we're not able to have the last piece of dialogue. So we're going to have our initial dialogue here with Omar, and then we're going to talk to him again right away, and we should not have access to so we've only got this one piece of dialogue. So if I jump back over to this other screen here, you can see when the game's running. One of the nice features about this dialogue system is that it will show you what you have access to and what you don't. So here's the start of the conversation. We have access to this line of dialogue, but not to this line of dialogue, which is what we want at this point. So jump back to the other screen here. Jump through that conversation. Then Omar's going to go into Carly's room. And now we don't actually have to talk to Carly to move this forward. We could if we wanted to, but it won't have any effect. And then we're gonna wait for Omar to go over to Carly, listen at the door, and then we're gonna go and talk to Omar again. And then we should then at that point have access to the second line of dialogue, the second dialogue option. Alright, so Omar's there. Now we'll listen. And then they have their conversation. So I'm going to kind of go through this a little bit slower to see if it flows all right. So like, what's the deal with math? What do you mean? It's kind of boring, don't you think? I guess it depends on what you find interesting, but you can do some powerful shit with math. Without math and logic, we wouldn't have computers or cell phones. I don't like either of those anyways. I don't know, I guess math has always been something I've struggled with. Well, we'll figure out how to make it work for you. I think that works. Alright, so now we should have access to this. So how are things going with Carly? Well, she doesn't like math very much. Yeah, she's more of a creative type. I just need to figure out what she needs to get her going. Any advice? Maybe she just needs the right person to support her with it. I think you could be the one she needs. You just need to really get behind her. Get behind her. All right, I can do that. So it functions properly, which is half the battle. We'll wait outside so that there's no reason this shouldn't work. but he should go to the window and then go back to Carly, and then we should be able to listen into the second part of their conversation, which I have not written yet. Now the thing is, what I'm gonna need to do is, because I don't want that second part of the conversation to actually happen until Grant talks to him. Or do I? I guess what I could have happen is so right now we can listen into the second conversation, which I actually deleted the text so she doesn't say anything. But what I could do, I'm going to jump over the other screen here, is so I could have it split off. So right now this is their conversation. So here was the first part of their conversation, and now they're jumping into this one, which there is no dialogue in that specific case. So what I could do is have this actually branch off into two separate ones. So one that happens if you haven't talked to Omar, and then the other one that happens if you have talked to Omar, which would actually then progress the dialogue even further. Actually, the way I have it set up, I don't know if I can do that though, because every time, the problem is going to be that every time he talks to her, this progress variable here is going to get advanced, which is going to keep advancing it whether Grant's talked to Omar or not. So the way it's set up currently, I actually don't think that's going to be a good option. So I'm going to actually, so what I think I need to do, get rid of this for the moment. So I think what I need to do is have, rather than jump over this other screen here, rather than have Omar loop through, have him stop and then basically wait for Grant to talk to him, so that they don't have that attempt to have that conversation again until he's talked to, oops, I hit the wrong button apparently. Meant to go to this other screen, not to the standby screen. So I want to go to, so this is Omar's task list. I'm going to make a second task list, I think. Do I do that, or do I might just make this one so it stops? So first he waits for the player, then he goes to the window, then he goes by Carly and waits. Then he talks to Carly. Then he goes to the plant. So I could, yeah, so this is what's triggering that progress variable to advance. So if he keeps on going to that, it's gonna keep advancing, which is gonna screw up the logic. So I need to, rather than do that, have him wait for the player. Just confusing myself. They should. Just confused why this should, unless I'm mistaken, should say it's waiting. Have under this wait category. I'm just gonna start this game up and make sure it's behaving. He's waiting. Why is he not? Why does it not show up in my list of his? So what you're seeing here is Omar's stuff here. So Yeah, I'm confusing myself. Okay, it's fine. So what I was so on these task lists, they have there's different categories of things that can happen or things that need to happen before a task gets done, and um, I was confusing myself. Basically, so the way it works is so the characters will go to do a task, and then there's a minimum time and a maximum time, and so this would be kind of a normal situation here where they go to do the task for between 10 seconds, 15 seconds. So the game picks a random number in between these numbers. If this max number happens to be -1, then it will just stay there forever until I force it out of it. So in this case, it's basically waiting for Grant to talk to him, and then when at the end of the conversation Grant forces him out of this, that's how it's waiting. There's this other category of waiting, which is basically based on primarily whether or not the character enters a room or interacts with something, which is what I was thinking I was looking for, but it's not. So basically what I would need to do here is just probably do the same thing here. So rather than have this wait from between 10 and 15 seconds where he's looking at the painting, have it set this to -1, which will mean that he's going to stay at the painting until the dialogue with Grant forces him out of it. So if I do that, jump back over to the dialogue here, then I need to have Grant push him forward out of that. Now the tricky thing, now that I think about it, is it's not guaranteed that he's going to be in the right spot when you have that conversation, which could confuse things. I'm going to quickly take a pause here. Alrighty, guys. I'm going to have to probably end this stream here, so I appreciate everybody who joined here. Sorry to end it so abruptly, but I'll try and do this again sometime in the not too distant future, so stay tuned to the Discord where I will let you guys know that I'm going to do another one. But anyway, thanks for everybody who tuned in, and we'll catch you guys next